Deep in the heart of a green, shimmering forest, where sunlight danced through the leaves and the air smelled like honey and pine, lived our favorite pair, Masha and Bear. One bright morning, the forest was extra quiet, almost like it was holding its breath. Masha skipped along the path, humming a made-up song, her boots crunching tiny leaves underfoot. She twirled, waved her arms, and called out, "Bear, let's play hide and seek." But Bear wasn't outside. His wooden house stood still and silent, except for a faint snore inside. Masha tiptoed up to the door and peeked in. There he was, curled up like a giant ball of fur, snoozing peacefully. She giggled, tiptoeing closer and whispering, "Boo!" Bear jumped so high he hit his head on the ceiling beam. "Masha!" he growled softly, rubbing his head, half annoyed, half amused. "You scared me." Masha burst out laughing. "That means I win hide and seek already." Bear sighed, stretching his big paws. "You always win," he said, shaking his head with a smile. "Now, what's your plan for today?" Masha grinned. "Adventure!" she declared proudly. "Let's explore the woods we've never gone to. The ones that whisper." Bear frowned. "Whispering woods, Masha? That part of the forest is very old and quiet. Not many animals go there." "Exactly," said Masha, bouncing excitedly. "It's mysterious. Maybe it's full of talking trees or magic mushrooms." Bear chuckled. "Magic mushrooms? Really?" But before he could finish, Masha was already skipping toward the trees. "Come on, Bear! You're too slow." Bear followed with a deep sigh, but a small smile tugged his mouth. Deep down, he loved her curiosity, even if it always meant trouble. As they entered the older part of the forest, the air grew cooler and the light dimmed under the thick green canopy. The wind made a soft, whispery sound that seemed to dance between the branches. Masha stopped, her eyes wide. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. Bear tilted his head. "It's just the wind." "No," Masha said firmly. "It said something. I think the forest is talking." Bear chuckled softly. "Forests don't talk, Masha." But then, as if to prove him wrong, a low, rustling voice floated through the trees. Soft, gentle, like a sigh. "Listen." Masha's eyes sparkled. "See? It's whispering!" Bear's fur stood on end. Maybe it's just the breeze." Masha tiptoed ahead, placing a hand on a big oak tree. "Hello," she said shyly. The leaves rustled again, whispering softly, almost like laughter. Bear stepped beside her, frowning, but the forest seemed calm and peaceful. Birds flitted quietly, and the sunlight flickered like magic dust. "Maybe," Masha said softly, "the forest only talks to those who listen carefully." Bear smiled, amused. "And you think you can understand it?" Masha puffed up proudly. "Of course! I'm Masha, nature listener extraordinaire." As they walked deeper, Masha began to notice things she never had before. The tiny hum of beetles under the bark, the faint trickle of water somewhere far off, the rhythmic creak of old branches swaying gently. "It's like the forest is breathing," she said dreamily. Bear nodded thoughtfully. "Maybe it is." Suddenly, they heard a small whimper. Masha turned sharply. "Did you hear that?" Bear's ears perked up. "Yes, that's not the forest." They followed the sound until they found a small baby bird lying on the ground, its wing trembling. "Oh no!" cried Masha. "It fell from its nest!" She gently cupped the tiny bird in her hands. "Don't worry, little one. We'll help you." Bear looked up at the tall pine tree towering above them. That's a long climb, Masha. Then you climb, she said quickly, handing him the bird. He hesitated, then sighed. All right, but be careful down there. He started to climb slowly, his big paws gripping the bark. Masha cheered from below. Go, Bear! You're the best tree climber ever! Bear chuckled, but kept going, step by careful step. As he reached the nest, he gently placed the baby bird back beside its siblings. The mother bird chirped in gratitude, fluttering her wings. Masha's eyes sparkled. See, Bear? The forest wanted us to listen so we could help. But their adventure wasn't over. As they turned to leave, the forest grew quieter again, almost like it was watching them. Masha stopped, listening hard. There it is again, she whispered. The whisper came once more, soft, kind. Thank you. Masha's eyes widened. Did you hear that? Bear froze. It really said something. The leaves shimmered slightly as sunlight peeked through. The wind brushed past them like a gentle pat. Masha smiled softly. The forest says thank you. Bear smiled too. Maybe the forest really does talk, only to those who care. As they walked back, the woods seemed different, warmer, friendlier. Masha skipped happily beside Bear. See? Nature has secrets, but it only shares them with good listeners. Bear nodded thoughtfully. You're right, Masha. Sometimes when we stop talking and start listening, we learn more than we expect. Masha grinned. You mean like when I talk too much and you close your ears? Bear laughed. Exactly. She giggled. Okay, from now on, I listen more. She paused for a second, but only after I finished talking. Bear laughed so hard the birds joined in from the trees. As they neared home, Masha started humming again, this time softly, in rhythm with the forest. The trees seemed to hum back, rustling gently in the wind. Bear listened and smiled. The forest was alive, full of stories and whispers, and today they had become part of one. Masha twirled around and shouted joyfully, Goodbye, Whispering Woods! We'll come back soon! The trees rustled back a soft answer, like a farewell. Later, as evening fell, Bear sat on the porch sipping tea while Masha watched fireflies flicker. The sky turned orange and pink, and the forest whispered softly in the distance. Bear, she said after a long pause, do you think the forest talks to everyone? Bear looked up at the trees, thoughtful. Maybe, he said, but only the ones who take the time to listen. Masha smiled sleepily. Then I'll keep listening. Maybe tomorrow it will tell me another secret. Bear patted her head gently. I'm sure it will. The crickets began to sing their nighttime song, and the stars peeked out one by one. Masha yawned and curled up beside Bear. Good night, Bear, he replied softly. The forest whispered one last time through the leaves, a sound that almost sounded like a lullaby. The gentle breeze brushed over them, carrying the soft scent of pine and peace. And as the moon rose high over the whispering woods, the forest slept soundly, knowing that two kind hearts had listened, understood, and helped it speak again. For sometimes the most magical things in the world don't shout, they whisper, hoping someone kind enough will hear.